Happy Friday. So, this is Mike, your professional culture vulture of all things political. Um, yeah, so just watched the news. Talked about the deputy FBI director saying that he may quit because the Epstein files weren't fully released. It would be fun. It's funny, and sad at the same time. It's just another, and Pam Bondi, Pete Hegseth, all these people who keep embarrassing the president. The bottom line is unprofessionalism. They don't act as professionals. I say culture vulture because, Donald Trump does not behave professionally. It's not how he leads personally. He's high feeling, low reason, high self, high sensory, low intuition, meaning intuition, as I've been saying in political culture, is a common paradigm, a common theme, a shared belief in something besides yourself. So, yeah, fascists believe in their leader. They don't believe in, a concept. So, that's why I'm moving my cells of my analytical structure for culture. And, I'm putting right wing fascists and the egalitarians as separate people, rather, although they do the same things as far as being sectarians, meaning they outsource their morality onto the group. So it's yeah, it's sad. Just for the country, it's sad. But yeah, Donald Trump does not like professionals and doesn't like professionalism. He takes advantage of them, and that's why nothing's getting done in his administration. Anything he tries to do is overturned by the courts, and he doesn't have good enough lawyers who'll tell him no. The ones who would tell him no get fired, or they resign. A good lawyer is the one who'll tell you what you don't want to hear. He doesn't like those lawyers. So, because the FBI guy, the DOJ guys who are long term, they're not going to tell him how to do the things he wants to do, because what he wants to do is stupid. It's not reasonable. It comes from his heart, not from any reasoned discourse in anybody's mind. So, I mean, the truth is, Donald, listens to the last person who talks to him. And if you're the last one, and then he changes his mind when the next person talks to him. Tariff policy, all that stuff. So, and he likes to pull stuff out of his tuchus when he's in front of the microphones, and he's being very authentic. He's not saying things he thinks are wrong. He's not lying or dissembling. He just doesn't know. He doesn't know what makes him look bad. And he doesn't have anybody around him who's telling him, dude, you're looking bad. And so, yeah, he doesn't believe in reason as opposed to authenticity. He's an authentic leader. He doesn't believe in intuition. He believes in what he can see, feel, hear, the color of marble in Trump Tower, all that. Is it perfect? Is it the right color of rose? It's like, yeah, I mean, people generally are good at that. He could have been a decorator. Thinks he is probably. But yeah. Doesn't respect hierarchy. He was lucky enough that people around him respected hierarchy. Mike Pence, basically, he insisted on professionalism. And, Trump got credit for stuff that, the stuff that he desired done, a lot of it got done. A lot of it couldn't be done. Some people, and I can say why he does. I can see why he doesn't like professionals, because professionals either trying to explain to him that things couldn't get done the way he wanted to because of the Administrative Procedures Act, or they just submarined him is the camp term. I mean, you give the boss enough or the tyrant who's going to violate the law enough rope to hang himself by not telling him what he needs to know. And that, I think, is what probably happened with environmental regulations, which is why he fired all those people who either tried to tell him or who just decided, no, just not tell him that what he does can't be done. Some of it could have been done. I mean, if he'd have played his cards right, he could have really done legally all the stuff that he wanted to do, but he didn't deal with the professionals and put people in who knew what they were doing. So, yeah. And to some extent he couldn't after a while because he didn't have the Senate. Now he's got the Senate, and they put the idiots in. They're not professional. They don't like professionalism either. He surrounded himself with people like him. A smart leader, even if he leads from the heart, will rely on his professionals. When you have a balanced team, professionals working for the inspiring leader, then you can get things done. Hopefully, if the heart is pure of the leader, then rather than being a racist fool that wants to destroy the planet, or doesn't think the planet's being destroyed and won't listen to why. Yeah, I think good things can happen and bad things can happen. The German army was very efficient, and the people running it they went from their German hearts, which were racist. So not all Germans are racist. I'm not certainly a racist. Not anti-Semitic, because I'm a Semite. Catholic Semite, but still, like on my father's side, almost totally. If you count Romani as Semites, some of us do. So, Sinti is the more I grow my facial hair, the more Sinti I look. But that's neither here nor there. Yeah. Even as political appointees, his toadies who he put in because they'll do what he says violate the first professionalism rule of appointee, which was drilled into me day one in my first political job, and I've had a few. Don't make the boss look bad. Don't let the boss make the boss look bad. Don't you look bad, which makes the boss look bad. Don't embarrass the boss. Don't let the boss get embarrassed. Don't even let the boss embarrass himself. Unless he's like being authentic and weeping and, to somebody where it's appropriate. If he's commiserating, then look vulnerable. Not bad though, but vulnerable. Barack knew how to do that. He knew how to look vulnerable. He knew how to mess up the words or try to sing Amazing Grace. But yeah, it's Trump picked the wrong people. Simple as that. He thought they were the right people for him, but that's the right people to let him have his way, not the right people to actually get the things done he wants to do. So, of course, all the things he wants to do, they put it out there, and then the courts say, no, there's only one thing actually being done right, professionally. The Gulf of America. He actually has the authority to, order the people involved to, make that change. So, it's a little iffy with Mexico. It'll be the Gulf of America / Mexico, and the Gulf of Mexico / America, or Gulf de Mexico, in parentheses, Americano, depending on what language the map you get. So, so it's, that's the one thing that they actually knew who to task to do it professionally. Everything else, all the firings, all the DEI stuff, which is crazy. It's like, let's just by executive order destroy affirmative action, or destroy employment opportunity. You can't do that. It's in the law. So it's in the law that grantees are supposed to abide by the law. And the provisions that they're abiding by are in the law. You can't get them with a Sharpie. But he doesn't have the professionals around to say, no, you can't do that, sir. If you want to, this is how, but it involves Congress. And they won't let you do that either. So, let's do something we can do, or else you're going to embarrass yourself, sir. Nobody has said, I don't think anybody has said, Mr. President, if you do this, you're going to embarrass yourself. And me and us as a group. So far, it's been pretty embarrassing. So, somebody's got to be able to tell Trump, you're embarrassing yourself. Or you could embarrass yourself greatly by doing this. You can't let Trump be Trump all the time. Or you're going to embarrass, this is a dead-end job for a lot of people. If you worked for Donald Trump as an administrative people, nobody is going to hire you. So, unless they're very hyper-partisan and, they're, closing ranks, but they're not going to let you do anything for real. Because you're not professional, you're not competent. In the bureaucracy, being competent is what you're trained to do, and being professional. Everybody in the civil service is trained that. It may not even be in the performance standard, but it's the unwritten one. Behave professionally, because people who aren't behaving professionally, they're shown the door, or they find ways to ease them out. Yeah, or trap them in a job and never promote them, and or make sure they're not hired, or seen it happened to me once, because I spoke with humor with somebody that didn't like the humor, but I was trying to be good-natured, not making fun of them. So and the guy that fired me didn't like me anyway, because I'm a left-winger, which he found to be unprofessional. Maybe he's right. Don't argue tax policy at work when your conservative Navy Reserve captain is in earshot. Close the door when you talk to somebody about economics and Marxism. You just do that. Oops. But it got me out of a job that were being professional would have given me a stroke, I think. So, yeah, it's of all the job fields, being a contract officer or specialist has the highest percentage of heart attacks of any position in the government. And I was trying to do that. And I had uncontrolled blood pressure at the time, so it would have been nasty for me. So, sometimes, God rescues you from situations you shouldn't be in, which is not professional, but it's true. But yeah, Trump's problem is professionalism, or the lack thereof, and he doesn't know. He doesn't have any idea that this is wrong. And unless somebody is hired that knows about this thing and tells people, you're embarrassing the president, don't do that. You stop embarrassing the president, or I'm going to fire you. That's what the chief of staff needs to start telling the people. Starting with Steve Miller. People who believe in the constitutional oath, professionals. So that is the highest part of professionalism. The others, looking good and all that, but it's not just looking good and having a nice suit. It's although it's part of it, but portraying yourself as a member of the team, and the team meaning the United States government, not the personal retinue of the President of the United States. So you treat him like a king, and he's looking like a jester. So yeah, that's what non-professionalism will make you look like. So have a good weekend.